everything.
Alrighty, we are live with the Survivor Michigan after show. Have some wonderful guests here. Let's have them all introduce themselves. Starting with Nishta, you're first on my list. So you introduce yourself. Explain where you're from and what your relationship is with College Survivor and all of that.
Yeah, so I'm Nishta. I'm a first year at Georgia Tech and I played like the inaugural season. And then over the break, our president's like a huge Survivor Michigan fan. So I like binged all 4 seasons like right in time for All Stars. And then I went back and rewatched them because it was just so good. And it kind of felt like some people were like sharing my experience of like what I went through first semester. So huge fan, super excited to be here.
All right, I'm Josh Mims. I'm a co-host of the Survivor Analyst podcast, and we've been covering Survivor Michigan for a while. We started off with season 4 of Survivor Michigan, and we loved it. And then just started covering it since the merge episode, and so we got a really good episode to get into today, and I'm excited for it.
I'm the other co-host of Survivor Analyst podcast. My name is Dustin. I think Josh did a pretty good job at covering everything.
Idol plays advantages and twists. Just
Listen to your voice, the Survivor Analyst. Blind sides, idol plays advantages and twists. Just listen to your voice, the Survivor Analyst.
Yeah, so these guys host their own. These guys host their own Survivor podcast, Survivor Analyst. You should definitely check them out if you haven't. Love the Survivor Analyst song. So I was so disappointed that in your most recent episode, it didn't have it. I was so sad. I was like, where did it go?
Yeah, I know. I need to bring it out of retirement.
No, that was great. I loved that. Honestly, that's amazing. So what do you guys think of this episode? Obviously somewhat the majority sticks together, but still a lot of interesting things going down and a lot of interesting dynamics at play.
I just want to know how Sam keeps getting himself out of these situations. It's
That's a
more
great
than
question.
just luck. There's something else going on at this
Some
point.
might call it luck. I don't know. It's like what's to stop? It's interesting to me. It's like instead of Megan going to Kevin with this, why doesn't she just go to Bailey with it like herself? I would love to know that question because it's like, yeah. It's like all Megan has to do is go to Bailey and this is all blown up. But instead, part of it is that I think Megan was like kind of fine with Kevin going home. And so it's kind of like, I'll let Kevin cause these problems. And if he can save himself, sure. But if he goes home, it's really no skin off my back. It's not going to be me.
Yeah, it was kind of like what Sam said. All she had to do was like basically show her phone. If she went to her and like handed her phone to her and was like, hey, look at these messages. There's no denying that. So and Sam, yeah, I don't know what Sam has to get people to believe him. Like this guy messaged the whole tribe, like his whole plan and everything, blew up his own game and somehow recovered from that. Now he's messaging people and having them messages sent to other people and somehow talking his way out of it. I don't know, but he's got some kind of ability he's the type of person who can stab you in the front and then convince you that it wasn't him. I don't know.
Well, I will say that it seems like part of it is that because Bailey's immune, she's kind of saying like she almost doesn't care if the messages are real or not. Like she can't be bothered to figure it out. She just doesn't want to deal with it. And she just wants to stay strong, But I agree that it does seem like it should have been more of an issue for Sam in this episode.
I didn't understand why Bailey, sure, there's an argument to be made that maybe Megan should have went Bailey directly. But if you have these screenshots, I think I confront Megan to see them. Why just believe bullshit that could be spewing out of Sam's mouth? I don't understand.
I mean, on the note of Bailey being immune, I'm really surprised they didn't revote, or at least I think that's what we would have done, but they just kind of went with it.
So I'm glad they didn't because Megan might have gone out if Kevin decided to play.
I was shocked too that I didn't pick up on that when it happened because it showed like Kevin voting for Bailey, and I was like, oh, okay. And I didn't even register until Cooper was like, hey, how did he even vote for Bailey? She's safe. And I was like, oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I feel like this season must be so chaotic that they just forget who even wins immunity, which is just crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin is his own breed of, to me personally, Kevin voting for Bailey and her being immune and not being able to be voted for was the perfect ending to Kevin's story. Like, there could never be a more Kevin ending than voting for someone you're literally not allowed to vote for. And yeah, I just thought that was hilarious.
Kevin was so entertaining this episode. I was so sad. A part of me was like, maybe Megan should go home so I can see more of this side of Kevin, because that was entertaining as fuck. And I don't. Okay, so I know people are kind of riding high on Bailey right now, but I'm tired of her like so much. Please, I don't care if Sam goes home. At this point, just send Bailey home. She's annoying. Also, anyways, I'm sorry. Well, I'm
No.
seeing the comments come up as they appear, and people were like, "Oh, Bailey, Bailey." I'm just like, "No, not Bailey, please, no."
I love her confessionals. She's like not even trying. Like I love it. Like
Well, talking about Kevin, like Kevin, I mean, he like he said at that trial, he's a character, and he's going to bring the entertainment. You know, he brings the chaos. Like he's having when you watching him and you're watching his confessionals, you can see he's having fun. He's Kevin being Kevin, causing chaos, and he enjoys it.
Yeah, he's been chaos Kevin through and through. I mean, look, I love Kevin. I would love to have seen him, go all the way to the end. But truthfully, similar to Jackson, I feel that we got extremely lucky with how much Kevin we got. He only went to a single tribal pre-merge, and he would have been voted out probably if he ever went again. So it was like so lucky that never happened. And we just got more Kevin being Kevin. So I was super happy with the amount of Kevin we got in this season. And yeah, it was interesting to me how many people seem to think Kevin had a chance to win. I was like, nothing in the edit shows that. Like, all we ever hear is people being like, I don't trust him. I don't like him. I want to vote him out. So I was shocked there's people who thought Kevin had a serious chance, but good for him.
the Cavillan is very charming.
Yeah. What did you guys make of Crouch's strategy this episode of telling people he's going to be safe and that he's totally fine?
Well, that's what I was thinking that he was supposed to do. I was like, Crouch, you got inroads with your inroads with the people that you're on the outs with. You got inroads with like Cooper, who's in the majority, that's feeding you information with him, with what's going on over there. Like, they're not going to want to target you. Just kind of lay low and just ride it out. And that's what he was going to do. But then he got a little too comfortable. And then he's just telling everybody like, yeah, I'm just going to make it to the end. I can see myself there. I'm pretty much guaranteed safe. And I feel like he just came off as a little bit too like arrogant or like too cocky about him being safe. And it was like rubbing people the wrong way. And it almost like come back around to get him. So, I think that he had the right idea, but the execution of it was just not exactly what he should have been doing.
I feel like the last person you tell that you feel safe to and be cocky to is Leia. Like, that's definitely the last thing she wants to hear, especially if you're not on her list.
Oh, God. Who do you think's gonna win?
I feel like the person who I think is going to win isn't like necessarily who I'm rooting for, because I'm a Sarah stan like through and through. She is so funny to me, but I don't know. Okay, out of left field here, but I'm in my heart. Cooper's got it. Like, this is all he's been waiting for his entire life. Like, I will be devastated if he gets voted out, and I just don't want to deal with that.
Wow, a Cooper stan. We never see those. You might be the first one to ever come on this after show. Cooper's going to love this. Cooper has only gotten hate from pretty much every corner of the internet. Like, I'm not sure there's a single Cooper fan that exists. So, like, that's amazing. Cooper's going to be so excited.
That's because we can't speak out. Like, then they come for us.
I'll hop on the Cooper train. I'm a Cooper stan as well. I think that he's in a good position. It's for me to see like who's going to win. I don't know. It's kind of hard. It's hard to see one of the outsiders somehow making it to the end. I don't think Leia's got a chance. I don't know if people are really going to respect that kind of loyalty angle the whole time, because there's a lot of really gamers out there that's going to be like, well, did you really make moves or anything? So I don't know about Leia's chance. I could see her making the final 3 or even the final 2 or whatever it turns out to be, and I could see her making it that far, but I don't think she's got a chance to win. Emily, Bree, I don't know if they have much of a chance. I kind of want to see them pop off a little bit more. I'm ready to see the brioche come out and start making some moves. And Emily, I'm ready to see her put some like if she has an idol or some advantages, put them to use.
She's talking about maybe playing her idol to get out Bailey. What do we think that's something that could happen potentially?
Please, I hope so. I'm crossing my fingers and my toes.
We want good TV.
So where do you guys?
I just want Bailey.
Where do you guys stand on Emily? I mean, Kevin's strategy seems to be berate her as much as possible. Do you think that's like the right call on Kevin's part? I felt like Emily, as she's saying, has played a pretty decent game thus far and has put herself into a decent position. So yeah, I think there's some interesting parallels between like you have like Megan is complaining a lot about, oh, they're all friends. Like there's nothing we can do. But like there are people like Adam and Emily who weren't friends with these people, but have found themselves in like a decent spot. And so it's kind of, there's some interesting dichotomies at play, I think.
I don't think Emily's playing a good game. I side with Kevin 100% on like, okay, so to just outright saying she's not playing a good game would be unfair to her. But I kind of view her the same light that I viewed Nick. Her game just seems really inconsequential due to the friendship alliance that seems to be there. But you also got the all girls, non-girls alliance thing that's going on. So maybe, but I don't think so. I don't particularly see it panning out for her very well.
I feel like Emily's playing a really good game, but like behind the scenes, and it's not until she like will vote out a big player like Bailey that I think people will really respect her. And kind of the same for AJ as well. Like I feel like unless they vote out Sam, a lot of people will have like Megan's perspective of, oh, they're just in Sam's back pocket.
I feel like Kevin's idea was there was some like sense of a smart move, because people have fear of being irrelevant. They don't want to be the B plot. They want to be the main character. They want to be in the spotlight. And I think that is one of maybe Emily's insecurities, is that she's going to be like irrelevant or like a nobody. And then so kind of preying on that. But yeah, telling her straight up, like, she's nothing, you got to start making moves. I don't think that was the right approach, but to kind of be like, hey, you might want to think about making some big moves. Look how this is going to look on your resume when you're sitting on the end. People are now going to see you like, hey, you got a good chance of winning now. So I feel like that would be a good approach. But the way that he went around it was just like, no, that's not the right execution there.
I don't know that I necessarily agree, because it looked like, again, right, it's all edited, but it looked like she was believing it. And I think that her going that route and then bringing all that up, like, oh, it's the cheerleader or whatever, was kind of her way of backtracking to potentially repair any damage that her even speaking with Kevin might have done. Because I truly believe that if Bailey would have flipped, that she would have went along with getting out Sam.
Yeah, I think that if that flip had happened, it would have been Sam probably. I mean, Emily kind of wanted to do it. And then there's some interesting stuff where you can see that like Bailey kind of talks Emily out of flipping and Bree kind of talks Adam out of flipping. So like there's people who are already getting antsy even 1 week into this set. How long do you guys think this majority will stick together?
I hope not long. Please, Adam, get Sam's ass out. Please.
Yes.
Get out of here. Stop. I know he's not in his back pocket. Adam is playing a damn good game. But for fuck's sake, let's get rid of the perception already. Please. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know how long this is going to last. So there's already rumblings here and there. There's already kind of a little slight distrust between people. And, the fan in me wants to see the disruption. You know, everybody's rooting for the underdogs. Everybody wants to see something flip. I don't want to see Megan go. I don't want to see Crouch or Sarah go next. Like, that's going to be boring if that ends up happening. So we do want to see something flipping. And I think something's going to happen soon. It might be, if it's not this next episode, it will be the one after for sure, I feel like.
All right, listen. I need a mega missile to actually fucking land. Please. Like, every time I see it, I'm like, oh my, like I was like, oh God, it didn't land earlier in the season, but it's coming back now. I was literally on the edge of my seat. I was like, fuck, Sam's about to go home. Sam's about to go home. Fuck yes, fuck yes, fuck yes.
Do you think this is the last Megan? Do you think this is the last Megan?
No, it better not be. God damn it.
What do you think, Nishta? Who is like, when's this all gonna break up? When do you think?
Oh my gosh, hopefully soon. I want body bags. Like,
Please, thank
I
you.
need to put them out.
Who do you guys think is in like the best position currently? I guess we already talked about that. We can talk about something else. Who else have we not discussed, I guess, yet?
So I wanted to
what do you guys
up.
think about Leia's list?
Yeah, so
Like,
I actually,
as a strategy, like as just everything.
as a strategy, I think it's pretty shit, but just to be straightforward. But she had a really good point in that if people wouldn't go around perpetuating it and reinforcing that Leia has the backs of all these 4 to 5 people who are on this list, then it wouldn't be as big of a deal. But like, it's perpetuating, it's becoming its own thing, that I think it could potentially be a lot more to her advantage than I thought it would have been earlier in the season.
I think it'd be an advantage if she turns on them, because then they'll never see it coming.
I feel like her loyalty angle is, we kind of see it play out a little bit here, because it's like a spectrum. On one end, you got Kevin, who is like chaotic as crazy. And then you have Leia, who is loyal. And then you had people who were so quick to throw Kevin under the bus. Even the people on the outs were like, yeah, I'm okay with Kevin. As long as it's not me, let it be Kevin, because he's, you know, you never know what he's going to do. So, and then you have Leia, who is consistent. You can, you know, she has her list. You already know who she's not going to vote for. And so she has more consistency. You know, like you pretty much know where her vote's going to land at for the most part. And so you kind of seen it play out a little bit here, where Kevin was kind of just thrown to the wolves. And I feel like for her, it's a good strategy to make it to the end. I feel like because she's just so loyal, people are going to drag her to the end. And then I just don't know who's going to really respect that game in the end. Who's going to vote for her to win just for being loyal? I don't know. Maybe it'll work out for her, but I don't think so. So
I don't know, man. Like, the social aspect of the social game of Survivor, at least with CBS Survivor, has been like top tier in consideration for a lot of people, a lot of the jurors. So I think that there's a lot more weight to it than people possibly give it credit for.
Nisha, do you have any thoughts on Leia's list or what you make of it?
I don't really see it panning out, kind of like what Dustin was saying, especially in College Survivor. Like, season 2 can we talk about how another season 2 person just got out? There's just one
3
after
in a
another.
row. Lucy, Nick, and Kevin back to back. Yeah, because it was funny, because not a single season 2 person got. Every season 2 person on the season made the jury, but now they've gone back to back. Will Bailey, Bree, or Sam be next? That's the question, I guess.
Running out. Yeah, but as we've seen, like, it's really the social game in College Survivor that triumphs it, and I really don't see Leia like playing a good social game other than the people that she has on her list. And even some of them I feel like would value a strategic game over what she's doing.
That's fair.
yeah, I could see even Cooper like not even voting for her and voting for somebody who like willed and dealed their way to the end over her, because it's like, well, you know, I think he values like the strategic part. I think he would be one of those people.
What'd you guys make of Sam telling Megan all this stuff about how he distrusts Bailey, sending her these text messages? Like, do you guys think this was good gameplay by Sam?
Hell no. Absolutely not.
Sam would have learned his lesson with the text messages earlier in the season.
Right? I feel like as much as a strategy and game player he is, I think there's moments where he lets his heart win and he makes emotional decisions just like that one. And I think it came back to bite him in the ass when he really thought like maybe he could win over Megan and win her if things were to flip flop and the 7 breaks loose, that he can pull in Megan as a number to have the majority when that happens. And I feel like he just I think Megan did a good job, enough to make him feel like, emotional enough to have him slip up and give that information to her.
I think every week there's like a B plot of like, how did Sam fuck up but get out of it this time? And I'm like waiting for the day I like turn on Keep Your Torch Lit and it's like, it's Sam's turn. Like it's him. He is the exit interview. But it's not come yet.
If the like majority alliance breaks up, who do we think would like go first from that group, or who's like most likely to flip on it? Or who do you think is in the worst position in that majority? Right. So we have like we heard there's a final 4 of Sam, Adam, Leia, and Bree, but we also know there's like a final 4 of the girls alliance of Leia, Bree, Emily, and Bailey. So Cooper is the only one who's not in either of these final 4s. But Sam and Adam are also being left out of this girls' alliance. And it seems like the girls know about the Sam and Adam ones. So I don't know. Who do you guys think is like in the best position here in this 7?
Well, I think who is in the worst position is probably Adam. I think they were right when they were saying like, Adam, you're on the bottom. When Sarah went to go talk with Adam and he's like, you're on the bottom. Like if you do make it to the final 7, you're going to be the one that gets voted out. And I think she's right. I think it will be him that gets voted out and in that 7 spot if it were to where they were making it to the final 7. In the best spot, I'm not really sure. Maybe I think maybe Cooper will be in the best spot. I don't know. I think Cooper is in the best spot just because I don't know if he hasn't really overtly screwed anybody over. He lied to Leia, but I don't know. I think if the 7 do make it to the final 7, that maybe the girls' alliance would stick together.
I feel like Bree's in a good spot. Like she's making good moves. I'm not sure how much people know about it. And then Cooper like might be, but I mean, like you say Cooper's name, like associated with it is just big target. Like they're like synonyms.
So like, yeah, what do we make of a Bree's game? Do we think that it makes sense for her to talk Adam out of flipping this week?
I think for her game, yeah.
Yeah.
Do I think that? I don't know that I think that. I don't, and it's probably just because we haven't gotten as much time, or maybe I haven't gone back and watched the season Bree play down. But again, like Nick, Emily, and Bree, I'm just kind of like, they're just kind of side characters to me. So I don't know. I think she's like firmly in the middle. I don't know that I would say that I think that she's on top. I don't know who I think is on top and who I think is on bottom. Mostly because I don't see the alliance lasting. I think that Sam probably gets itchy and tries to make a move. That's what I think.
He has
I feel like
voiced
he's itchy
in this
every week.
episode. Yeah, he said he wanted to he knows he's got to make a move against Bailey and Cooper. So
I think we can already sense some itchiness. It's just a question of like when, It's always a question of when. Yeah, for me, that's the interesting tension with any kind of majority alliance at the merge. Like there usually is one, and the question is always like, when's it going to blow up? Because it will at some point. You just don't know when.
Yeah, because it doesn't make sense for the players on the bottom, or at least who feel like they're on the bottom, to just wait until it's the final 7, because then they're fucked.
What do you guys think of the kind of argument we hear between like Sam and Megan in the confessionals about Megan sort of saying like, oh, it's so unfair, like they're all just friends and that's why we're on the bottom, and Sam is saying like, well, you just haven't played the dynamics correctly, like you had your chances and you missed them. What do you guys make of that? Who do you think Who do you think has a more fair point there?
Megan. That's some bullshit, dude. Like, they've had this opportunity to get to know each other. And, I mean,
But
be
Adam
fair,
is in the same spot as Megan, though, and he's in the majority. So, like,
right. But here, I've taken issue with Sam's distrust of Megan all season because I get it, right? He lied or she lied to him about the relationship between those two, between Jackson and herself, and that's fair, I guess. But at the same time, like, of course, she's not going to tell the truth. I don't. The only way that I really see that really have backfiring is if like Sam actually had tried to play one of those fake idols that Jackson created. But even then, right? Wasn't it Sam who told Aaron about Megan and Jackson dating, or am I misremembering that? I'm going way back to when Megan wrote down Sam's name. Who told Aaron about that?
I think it was, and I think she
Right.
or-
So if it was Sam who told Aaron, then Sam basically shot himself in the foot with that play. And
I think didn't Sam tell Cooper, and then Cooper
Or-
told
was it?
something like that.
I don't
that's
remember.
what it was.
Something
Yeah,
like that.
Remember.
it was something
Okay.
like that. Yeah.
Okay, even then, why the hell would Sam trust Cooper? What the fuck? Hey, we go back. We trace it back. The reason that Megan flipped on Sam was because Sam opened his fucking mouth. So I don't know why I'm getting so violent with my words, but I don't because Sam opened his mouth and flipped. So I don't understand it. I don't understand it. So getting back to Adam, Megan very well could have been in that same position as Adam, but even now, right, we're talking about how Adam's on the bottom. So, and that's because he's not necessarily within that friend group, right? So, sure, she could have worked her way into Adam's position, but she still would have been on bottom within, or at least perceived to be on bottom within that. So, I do think that having that many friends coming into the game has worked a lot better. And Megan has a point. That's all I'm gonna say.
I
I'm
can
kind of
kinda
on
see.
Sam's side.
I
Yeah.
kind of am too. I feel like because I can see arguments for both. It's like, well, you're against people who have these connections that already go into the game having this connection where you haven't really, whereas some people haven't had the time to build those connections. But I kind of, Sam is also saying, hey, when you have a lot of these connections, it comes with a price of having a huge target on your back, and that you have to navigate that as well. And I see arguments for both, but I think I land more towards on the Sam side of things.
I feel like, or I'm not really sure how much about season 4 people, but they kind of knew what they were signing up for. Like a lot of people in production were pre-gaming for All Stars. Like I know you teased in episode 0, which I'm very excited to hopefully see.
That's coming at some point. It's coming at some point. Yeah. I think people that will be a shocking episode in and of itself. Some of the people who were pre-game, I think that will dissuade some of the it was all rigged, it was all pre-gaming, because you're going to see some people in that pre-gaming who just hated each other in the game and were completely against each other. Spoilers for episode 0, but you'll see at least one of those where you're like, wow, so that just did not work out at all.
That's funny. Yeah, so I mean, it is an unfair advantage, but I think that comes inherently with the title of All Stars, all returning season.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a complicated situation, and my goal is to try and show all the different sides and everything people are saying and kind of leave the audience to decide for themselves. I think that both of them have points to make. Ultimately, I do think that I think that everybody on this season had a chance to win, and there's 2 people I think it's very, very unlikely they could have won the game. One being Tom, mainly because I don't see how he gets to the end. But if he does get to the end, I think he wins against anybody, just because I think that if he had gotten there, everyone would have been like, the entire jury would have just been standing him basically. I don't know how he ever gets there. And then the other one is maybe Jessie. I'm not sure if there's any final three that like people would have necessarily. She would have had to play a very interesting post merge to win the game. But every single other person in the game, I think, had a total chance to win, could have won, and I can see scenarios where just different votes go different ways, and they could have won. So, I think it's interesting for that reason. But yeah. What else? What other stuff happened this episode that we haven't talked about yet?
I want to talk about that they only had 48 hours. This is like the shortest time in between.
So that's like an underrated thing about College Survivor is that like it's kind of unfair, honestly. Like some weeks are just shorter than others. Like they're not all the same length. And like we're getting to the end of the semester and we just have to start like cramming stuff in, to like with a 21 person cast at a certain point, it was like, all right, we got to like speed this up. And it just comes down to when people are available, and people were all available in 2 days. So it's like, all right, then we're doing it then. Figure it out. Make whatever moves you have to make. Like, but I do think the longer a week goes on, the more likelihood there is of like flips and like people just getting paranoid and freaking out. So I do think that the short time span does encourage like the majority to stick together, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I feel like threat levels also change rapidly with the amount of time. Like at least in some of the seasons that I've watched of like other College Survivors, like they'll go on break, and before the break, this one person was like #1 target, and then after the break, they're like, "Well, we thought about it more," and they're just not that big of a deal. So it's really interesting to see.
Yeah. What'd you guys make of the challenge?
I was wanting to talk about that because it's kind of like, it was kind of cool in a way that because you can see like who's aligned with who, but you kind of obviously know who's aligned with who. So then it kind of like the majority can just gain up against the minority, and then there's no way for them to kind of win immunity if that's the way. So it was.
I had to cut this out of the episode, but you can kind of hear a little bit of it because it was kind of impossible for me to cut. I thought this challenge made absolutely no sense. Like, and I like wasn't involved, or I guess I just wasn't paying attention when they discussed it, maybe. But I also had very little say in anything, so like, no one would have listened to me even if I had to say. But like, to me, the whole point of the idle hands thing, like in 1v1s, it makes sense because you can throw your hand up in the air and actually do it. But in this one, there's no incentive for you to actually knock anybody off. Because like every person that actually knocks somebody just immediately gets knocked. Like basically Sam knocks off Crouches, and then Crouch just like dive bombs and takes out Sam. And I'm like, wait, and I literally said a lot. I was like, that shouldn't be allowed. Like Sam should still be in, basically, because I thought that just was clearly ludicrous. Like, why would you be allowed to do that? And everyone's like, oh no, that's totally allowed. Like that's like part of the game. And I was like, okay, well, then why would anybody in this why would anyone ever knock off anyone's cup? You're just incentivizing basically nothing to happen in this challenge. So I just thought like the idle hands as like every man for himself just doesn't really make any sense. And it should have been like a bracket or something. But that's just my point of view on it. Like I was just very confused by it, honestly, at the time. And it lasted like 2 minutes. So I was like, what? Like, I don't get this. Like, but I don't know. Curious what you guys' thoughts were.
Why did you have no power on production?
Well, at the time when this was, I really did almost nothing on season 3 and 4 production. And so like at the time I was just kind of seen as like the guy with the camera, and I knew very, very little about Survivor. So like I had power in terms of like, where do we point the cameras and like stuff like that. But beyond that, it was like, oh, Ian doesn't know anything about Survivor. Like other people made all the decisions in relation to like most of the twists and like everything to do with the Survivor aspect, the actual planning. I was given like I was just kind of seen as like, oh, this guy will edit it, whatever. Like, it'll all be his problem later on. So, and sometimes I feel that. Sometimes I'm editing it and I'm like, if they had listened to me, this would have been a much easier thing to edit than like what they ended up doing. But
so I did have a question about the challenge. Like near the end, was it actually Bailey's cup who hit the ground last? Because
yes.
Okay, because the way it cut back, it made me wonder if like there was a mistake that happened.
The canon edit says that yes, Bailey's cup hit the ground last. You will not see me saying anything different than that.
Okay. Got it.
No. But actually, yeah, I watched it in slow mo like a bunch of times, and Bailey's cup 100% hit the ground last. So yeah, but yeah, but to be honest, even if Emily had won immunity, I think this week would have gone exactly the same. I don't think it would have changed anything. So in the grand scheme of things, it's like not that big of a deal what happened between Emily and Bailey. Like either of them winning would have been about the same outcome.
I feel like a lot of the players are pretty fatigued by now of like how much stress playing the game, like, understandably. But do you think it ever gets like worse? Like, do they get even more tired of the game and like even like make many like irrational decisions or something like that? Like based on their tiredness?
Yeah, no, I do think that like 100% at this point. I think we can see a little bit on the previously on Survivor for next week's episode that like people are getting tired, and this was like emotionally exhausting for everybody. And like the 100-day stretch, it's like the longer it goes on. I mean, you can see in this episode that like Bailey and Kevin were like pretty close friends, and like so that's the other thing that's interesting with like the idea. It's like, oh, they're all just friends, they're all hanging out. I like intentionally showed when Megan is saying that the scene of Nick and Kevin and them all partying together in episode 8, because it's like, to me, it's a little bit like if it was literally just based on who was closest friends with who, Nick was never getting voted out at the merge, because Nick was like as knee deep in the friendships with these people as anybody. And like Erin, going into the season, Erin was one of the winner picks because she was so close with so many people in the cast. And so, yeah, I think that like the grueling aspect of that, the nature of like Erin getting voted out, saying like, it's personal, don't talk to me. A lot of those people like took that personally because like they were like, Adam was really close friends with Erin in real life at the time. And so there's a lot of people taking that like really seriously. You can see it's impacting Lucy, it's impacting Leia, it's impacting Bailey in this episode where she like has to vote off Kevin, and it's like hard for her because in this show, Kevin is a character. He is this villainous, crazy guy. In real life, he's a little different than that. You know, he's not like, he's still kind of like, he's still chaotic, but he's not as like just vindictively evil. Like he is playing up that aspect of his character for the show because that's what he came on the show to be a character, and that's like what he wanted to do. And so I think like for Bailey, at least, a lot of other people are like, Kevin's this horrible guy, look at all these horrible things she's doing. She's like, well, I know the real Kevin, and like this is like hard for me to just vote him out in this way, and like know that he does care about the game also. And you can see that at Tribal, like Kevin is feeling like he feels like it's so funny with Kevin because he like would betray anybody, but you do get the sense that maybe he wouldn't have betrayed Bailey. And so it's like extra cruel that's like he like flipped on Will for Bailey, and that ruined his game with everyone else he was close with. So it's like from everyone else's point of view, Kevin flipping on Will was this incredibly like evil, horrible thing to do. From Kevin's point of view, he was like flipping on Will to like work with his buddy Bailey and like make it up to her. And so it's like kind of this cruel twist of fate where somehow in Kevin's brain that like made sense, but from everybody else's standpoint, that like tanked Kevin's game. So yeah, I think it is definitely wearing on people. That was a long-winded answer, but yeah.
Well, one thing I wanted to talk about was when we were doing our recap last time of like the merge and everything, I was like, there's one scene that I need to see in this episode. And you delivered, Ian, you delivered. That was of Sarah erasing the days since screwed by Cooper. So I was glad we got to see that.
Yeah, that was funny. How long do you guys think? How high do we think the timer gets again?
Oh, I don't know. I thought it was kind of funny too that she like basically based her whole strategy around wanting to screw over Cooper too.
As she should.
Yeah.
It's funny also because like Cooper just casually saves her this episode. Like Sarah is 100% the person that was originally thrown out. And it like almost comes across like Cooper was just like sitting around bored. I was like, let's just move the vote off of Sarah. Like, why not? Like,
I hope his interview went well. I was kind of concerned.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the C plot of Cooper's actual real life job interview making an appearance. Yeah, I thought that was an interesting aspect to show that like these people are all real people, right? They have their like real lives going on top of this whole crazy game at the same time.
Yeah, like Sam couldn't make it to the meeting because of the basketball game.
Yeah,
I guess that was like
Sam plays
example.
he plays in the basketball band, so he like had to go to the basketball game and couldn't make their meeting. What'd you guys make of everybody thinking Kevin still had the idol?
I don't know. I don't see how, because I mean, I guess because he's so chaotic, you just never know. And he did have that one clue for it, and so I think Kevin's chaoticness also kind of helps him out in ways like even like unexpectedly. And I think that was one of them where people were kind of nervous that he had an idol when he was even telling people like, I don't have anything. But then Adam's like, I kind of think you have an idol.
I'll definitely miss Kevin. Like, I think his end was really fitting with even how his torch was snuffed. But him just like calling everyone out at Tribal is like exactly why I watched this. Like, that was so funny.
Yeah, I agreed with everything Kevin said at Tribal Council, 100%. So I was curious, something that just came to mind. So it only got brought up like very shortly about Kevin's the fake steal vote that Jackson gave him, and how Bailey like immediately dismissed it. And so like I briefly put on my my tinfoil hat. I was like, did Noah tell her that
No,
was fake?
it was, I mean, it was pretty obvious to a lot of people it was fake once Andrew had played an advantage, because most people, like everybody figured there was only the one advantage because that it would have been gotten distributed. It had been said there was one advantage in the game. So most people thought it was fake after that point. And then once Emily B sent around her right of revenge advantage, the advantage that Jackson gave Kevin just like looked so different from that at that point, everybody else who at that point, it was pretty just like known that it was fake.
So like, he showed it? Okay, I didn't know he showed it.
Yeah. So that got like offhandedly mentioned in the last episode. Yeah. I want to be clear that like at this point in the game, like Noah really never told Bailey anything suspect whatsoever, you know, and that's just kind of part of the story that Megan like believes or is like saying that Bailey, she like just Megan and Bailey just don't like each other basically, you know, and like fair enough on Megan's part, she blames Bailey for all this happening, but like Bailey had this is not something that Bailey did, you know, Bailey didn't have any control over this going on, and so like they just have kind of this mutual dislike of each other a little bit because of all of that, I would say, but like there was nothing untowards happening at this point in the game. But, you know, it is what it is. I understand why Megan feels the way she does and why Bailey felt the way she did as well. It's a complicated story, you know. All these people have their own points of view, and all of them, to each person, they're the hero and everyone else is the villain, you know. And I think you're starting to see that come out, that like none of these people are reliable narrators. And so like as an audience member, you really have to take in for yourself and decide where you think like the truth lies, because everything that people are saying in confessionals is them trying to posit like their version of events, you know?
How did you go about editing that? Like making sure that everyone's like own story is heard, but also like the audience can decide for themselves, like what they believe.
It's been tough, you know? And like, I'm not always sure that I've gotten the balance quite right. Like, I tried as hard as possible to give everybody their own point of view. And that has also led to the episodes being like longer than some people would like. Like there's definitely a version of this episode that's just like, oh, it's really obvious Kevin boot. And we don't have as many of these like flips that don't go anywhere. But for me, at least, first of all, some of those do go somewhere in future episodes. So it's hard when like I know everything that happens, and if you're watching it, you don't know, you know? So I can sit there and be like, oh, this scene obviously has a purpose to it because of X, Y, or Z. But like you can watch it and be like, well, what did this have to do with the ultimate outcome of the episode? But also for me, like the story is just so much bigger than that. Like it's not just about who gets voted out. It's about like what each one of these people was trying to do and like what their overall storyline was. And it was just really important to me to not like purple anybody or not have anybody not have their storyline told. And so I really just tried to show what each person's point of view on the game was and what they were trying to achieve. And so if people end up watching this whole season, they can come away from it saying, I understand what all 21 people's like story was and like what their goals and motivations were, then I'll feel like I've succeeded more than like, oh, here's why so-and-so went home. Like that just ultimately isn't what I'm trying to do with this. It's just like slightly different than people might be expecting it, honestly. It's more of like, I want you to be able to go back and be able to see this is like what this person's story is. And this is why this is being shown in this way, which might not be immediately obvious right now. but I've tried to make it fair for everybody. Like I didn't want the edit to be like, oh yeah, Megan's 100% correct and like it was all rigged and stuff. But I also didn't want it to like I feel like the truth always is somewhere in the middle. You know, there's always like grains of truth in what each person is saying, and yeah. So, but it's been tough, and there have been lots of people on the. It's been tough even with people I'm friends with on the show. You know, who have felt like they are being portrayed too negatively or too positively in some cases. Like that, I have at least one person who said like I didn't do anything. Like you're showing you. Why are you like making me look so good? You know. And I was like, oh, like I feel like you did do something. They were like, no, I didn't. Like I should not be on this show as much as I am. So it's like it's a give and a take.
Yeah, I'm excited. The rewatch value seems like it'll be really high.
That's my goal. Like I'm hoping that it's not just a season of Survivor. Like I'm hoping that when it's all said and done, you could watch it back and really see like just how much foreshadowing there was and like how much each little thing really led to like other stuff, and like seemingly really small moments in the early episodes have like gigantic impacts later on. But that's really hard to see right now, I think.
So I need to go back and watch and try to figure out what those moments are again.
I'll say that I have seen some comments that have like actually correctly predicted some things based on like very minor clues, but I won't say what exactly they were. But I've seen there have been a few people who have like they have like correctly picked out the nuggets that were in there. But it was a complicated season. It was a complicated thing to experience in the moment. It's been a complicated thing to re-experience as well. So yeah, it was just a complex story, and that is kind of what it is.
As is life, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not as simple. Like I think the CBS show often like trails towards a very simple narrative of like, here are the heroes, here are the villains, here's who you're rooting for. And I just don't think this season was like that. It just wasn't what I was trying to do. Like I wanted it to be I wanted it to be like as close as possible to what these people experienced, you know? And what they experienced wasn't always the most positive thing. Like sometimes it was hard, sometimes it was difficult, and sometimes it wasn't fair. And it was just like, it was a crazy thing that they did together, and I tried to accurately portray it.
I'm really excited to see how like Sarah and Megan weave their way out of these situations and what they'll do to keep staying in the game.
I still want Megan to win.
Yeah, I'll say this. This is like at any point, at any episode from now till the end of the season, I would dare someone to like correctly predict the boot order. I don't think it's possible. I think it's not possible for almost any episode from this point on for people to correctly predict it. I think that like, I'm pretty sure that there's at least one voting pattern at some point in this post-merge that has like never happened on Real Survivor. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong because I'm not the most well-versed. I'd have to like check every single season, but I'm fairly certain that the way the vote split in one episode has never, ever, ever happened on Real Survivor.
Wow.
So keep watching if you want to see something you've never seen before.
Do you agree with like this? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, well, I was just going to say about Sarah and Megan that I was almost worried that Megan almost screwed herself over here by because I almost felt like she could do like what like Crouch was doing, which is kind of like lay back, because I didn't think like anybody was going to specifically target her. I think like Sarah or Kevin were more in the hot seat than like her and Crouch were, and I think by her going and doing this whole thing with Sam and sending the message out to like Emily and stuff, and I thought that almost like came back around, because then Sam, once he knew that, he was out to get her, and I felt like she was in a good position and then almost tanked her own game by trying to make moves when maybe she really didn't have to.
I agree with that sentiment, and I'm kind of scared because I feel like we're all Megan fans here. Like,
Oh yeah.
why would you hate the smiling PhD student? But
she is playing somewhat complacent at this point. Or you said you have a question though, yeah.
Oh, right. Like, do you agree with the sentiment of like chess versus checkers with post merge and after merge? like in this game? Because I feel like it was just chaotic from the beginning.
I think that I've said that like the two different halves of this season are very different stories to me. Like I think the first half of Michigan All Stars is like the most chaotic thing you could possibly have. Like there, like in this episode, we've seen a majority stick together for the first vote and the second vote. That doesn't happen in like the entire pre-merge of this season. Like it's like complete chaos all the way through, and it's really hard to tell always like who has power and who doesn't. But I do think that the gameplay in the post-merge was like better, if that makes any sense. Like I think it was chess, not checkers. And I do think that you'll see a point at which you're like, all of these people are playing like so smart, and they're like they're just playing for themselves and trying to win and make the best outcome happen for them. And like I said, that episode 6 with like all the different plans that were getting put together for the double tribal was probably only the third most complicated episode that I had to edit. And so we haven't seen number 1 and 2 yet. So like, that's all to say that like there is some wild shit that goes down the stretch. And I'm very excited for people to see some of these moments. And I do think that right now we're kind of in the position of setting up all the dominoes to like all fall down. And the question is just when will they fall and in what order? So yeah, there's definitely a few moments that I have been waiting so long for people to see and just be like, I cannot believe that happened. So
can't wait.
Yeah.
And I do think it's like interesting to see like the dynamics within a majority and how are they protecting the different like should Bailey have protected Kevin harder here? Like I don't know, and like like what kind of position is Crouch putting himself in by making it so obvious he's working with Cooper? Like there's different dynamics.
I feel like Crouch kind of fucked up with Cooper by saying that. I hated that too. I was like, damn, why you gotta talk? I need
it was
Cooper
funny
to make it
Crouch and
as far as
Leia
possible.
Crouch and Leia filmed that meeting at my house, and Cooper was out of town. So Crouch lived across the street, and he just shows up at my house. I was like, oh, what are you doing here? He's like, oh, yeah, and you have your camera ready? I was like, why? He's like, oh, I'm meeting Leia here. I was like, what? Why are you meeting Leia at my house? Like, why aren't you doing that at your house or Leia's house? He's like, oh, we just thought this would be the easiest place to meet. I was like, what? You live right across the street from me. Why is this happening?
Ian, I have a question. Is your house normally that fucking dirty?
Yes. Not today, at the time. Not today. Today I live in a very clean place. But what you have to understand is that our house in college was like the party house. Like for not just survive, like there were 7 people that I lived with, and we were in like 4 or 5 different student organizations. So like I was in some film clubs and I was in Michigan Mock Trial. Cooper was in Survivor. Some of my other friends were in like the some of the Jewish organizations. One of them was in Habitat for Humanity. One of them was in the boxing club. Basically, all of these clubs saw our house as like their house to party at. So there was like people drinking there like 5 to 6 nights a week. Like the place was always trash. People would just roll through, drink our booze, eat our food, leave it disgusting, and then leave. So like me asking them to clean my house to me was like the smallest price to pay for how many Survivor parties we had hosted over the years. Like we had hosted a ludicrous number of Survivor parties. And a lot of my roommates started saying they should have a say in casting. They were like, we should get a vote in who gets cast in this show because we're basically casting secondary characters in our lives. Like you cast these people on the show and they just start hanging around our house and like eating all of our food and like acting obnoxious. So surely we should have some kind of say in who these people are. There was definitely an antagonism between my house and Survivor as a club. I'll say that. We found them to be a lot of my roommates thought they were extremely kind of somewhat loud and rambunctious group that did not clean up after themselves appropriately. And so we felt this was a fair way to make them clean our house just the once. But yeah, it was pretty gross. It was pretty gross. Any other big thoughts?
I love how Crouch just assumed you would not only be available, but also your camera would be, and they could just use it.
Yeah, didn't text me. I could have been out. Like, just assumes I'm gonna be home and my camera's gonna be there. Like, it's like, I'm just the film guy. I'm always gonna be there to film your videos and edit your seasons.
Mm.
Were the producers ever like surprised by a vote?
Oh,
Or
multiple times. We thought Sam was going home week 3, the Megan like flip week. We 100% thought Sam was going home because we like didn't like Sam like at tribal. Sam like freaked out and voted for Dylan. Like going into it, we were like, oh, Sam's a goner. Like this is crazy. And then we also thought Cooper was going to get voted out the week of the double tribal. And we thought that Sam was going to go home at the merge vote because Nick was saying in his producer chat all day that he was going to play the idol. Nick was like, if I get the idol, I'm playing it 100%. I'm playing it. No doubt in my mind. So the only we were like wondering about was like, who's going to get the idol, like what's going to happen here. And then as soon as Nick got the idol, we were all like, oh my God, like, damn, like it's over. Like Sam's going home. Like, oh, Sam's going to be so upset. This is crazy. This is going to be a crazy episode. And then Nick didn't play it and we were all flabbergasted. So, and there are more votes to come that the person we thought was going did not go. So yeah, production was blindsided many times during this season. Many, many times I went to tribal thinking I knew who was going home and somebody else went. And there are more of those coming up where I was very confident I thought I knew what was happening and I was not correct. I did not know what was happening. That was fun. It was fun. It was kind of like I'm getting to really watch Survivor happen like live.
right, but with like friendships breaking up in front of you.
Yeah. I think that like a lot of us in Survivor Michigan kind of underestimated how emotional it'd be to like relive this and like live it back. Honestly, like I forgot how tough it was at the time and how hard it was to watch some of these people go through this. And through editing it, I think I become desensitized to it. Where like I've seen a lot of the scenes so many times, but a lot of these people like haven't seen all the videos of each other like shit talking each other. Like I haven't talked to some of these people yet, but I'm sure that some of the people from tonight's episode are like not happy about some of the things that other people said about them. I didn't know those things were going to be said, and all these people are still friends and like still talk, And so it's like that's been a hard thing to deal with, and to some level, I feel a worry about like authorial intent, where like I feel like there are people who will watch it and be like, it feels like I said those things because I chose to put it in the show, Like I could have cut out like Kevin shit talking Emily B, or like Sam like shit talking Bailey or something to that extent. Like, but I put it in because to me, anybody shit talking anybody is like, oh, that's good TV. Like as an editor, I can't not put that in. But then it's like I'm also friends with these people, and so it's like I don't agree with all the things being said, and like I feel bad when those people are like, why did you put this in, or vice versa at times. So that's been a hard thing as an editor to deal with when you are so close to a lot of the people. Like I've had a lot of people on the season take it more negatively than I realized they would, because I like didn't internalize what it would really feel like to watch your friends shit talk you. And that's happened to almost everybody on the show to some degree. Yeah. It's been a complicated experience for everybody involved, I think, to be honest.
Yeah, I bet it has.
It must be weird to have all like these random people comment on it too, and like watch it happen.
Yeah, it's been interesting. It's weird because this was the first season of Survivor Michigan where we've really received serious negative criticism as well. Like season 4 was always thought of by everybody in Survivor Michigan as like the bad season. Like, oh, it's boring and like Tokidoki just steamrolls. But season 4 came off pretty well in the actual show. And I think All Stars was always thought of all of us as like the pinnacle. Like this was like the best one. And like, I think that a lot of us didn't anticipate that it would be the most heavily criticized because it was the most hyped. Like there wasn't like hype for any of the other seasons, they just like came out. And people didn't know most of the people ahead of time. But this season, everybody comes into it with like their favorite, and like they're rooting for person X or person Y. And if those people don't do as well as they wanted or whatever, then like there's more backlash to that. And it's just like, it's been like I think that all of us kind of thought this would be like just a straight victory lap. And it has been more complicated than that, But there have been, it's been like positives and negatives at the same time. It's been a complicated experience, but it's been a very rewarding one as well. And I'm very curious to see how people feel about the rest of the season. Like, I think it's like fucking amazing, but like, we'll have to see, like we'll have to see what people think about it.
Yeah. Well, for what it's worth, it's been a hell of a ride so far, so I've enjoyed it. Also, I had a thought. Where did it go? Fuck. No, it left. Never mind.
Yeah, it's very like going back to what you were saying, Nishta. Like, it's very weird that like as the editor, it's like I try to come at it from an objective standpoint and not play favorites, but I also am really close friends with like the majority of the cast, you know. And like if it were up to me, all of them would be fan favorites, and everybody would like love all of them, you know. And so it's been hard to see some of them deal with like being shat talked. Like I live with Cooper, you know. Cooper's like one of my best friends, and like the vast majority of the comment section, like it does not like Cooper at all, and like you know, and so yeah, it's been very, very, very interesting, and I hope that when it's all said and done, everybody can walk away from it and feel like it was a very positive experience.
Yeah, it's really unique. And also, Cooper, we're hidden. Like, we can't come out. That's you have to be aware of that.
I texted him and I said, "Yo, dude, the girl from Georgia Tech, like on the after show, is saying she loves you." And he was like, "Oh, I'm a huge fan." He said, "I stand here now." He's like, "Whenever her season comes out, I'm rooting for her. I stand her so hard."
That's funny.
So, do you play on Georgia Tech ever?
Yes, I
Right,
played
so
season 1.
when that season comes out, you will have a huge fan in Cooper.
Can't wait. It's an exciting season. Probably this fall, hopefully.
Can't wait. Yeah, that'd be amazing.
I remember what I was going to say. So it's a good thing that I didn't watch seasons 1, 2, and 3 then.
Oh no, those are great seasons.
But no. Then I would have been in the boat of having favorites and all the negative.
Yeah, well, you have your favorites too, but they've just done okay. Your favorites have done well, right?
Yeah. Well, again, though, like I get it, right? There are people who are really invested in the show and all that stuff, but to a point, it is just a show. Like some
It's
people
also
can get really ravenous about it.
yeah. I do think that this is definitely like the most critiqued season of College Survivor like that's ever happened, at least thus far. You know, and to a degree, that's very empowering because it feels like it's like a real show. Like people are like treating it like it's just a real show that they feel comfortable like you know critiquing and shit talking and stuff. And to me, that's like it's kind of a very empowering thing as a storyteller that like we've achieved that on some small scale level that people. But it is funny watching people talk so much hate about people that I know in real life and I know are just like regular people at the end of the day, even though on the show they are all crazy. Like I do get that like everyone from Survivor Michigan seems insane on the show. Like I get that, you know?
So
I
true.
agree. Always more Dylan content. Yeah, I mean, you guys have any other thoughts you think you need to get off your chest or any overall feelings, predictions, bold claims, or what's going to happen?
So I think that I'm going to stick with it. I think Sam goes home next week. I want Sam to go home. Ian, who do you think goes home next week?
Good question.
Couldn't say. I'm sure that was really original.
Couldn't say.
I don't know. I guess it's been a really good season so far. You know, season 1 for me was like the top. Like I love season 1 so much, and so, and this it's starting to get up there. For me, it hasn't quite gotten up there, but as much as you're talking about what's coming, what's to come, I feel like maybe it could even bump season 1 out for me.
Yeah, we'll have to see, I guess.
I love this season. I'm so excited. I can't wait. I don't even want to guess who gets out. Like I just
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, thank you guys for coming on. Do you guys want to like plug your own stuff again real quick before you get off? Just to like get everybody following to your things, subscribing to your channels. It's very important.
Josh, you do the plug.
All right. Well, we do the Survivor Analyst podcast each and every week here. We recapping Survivor Michigan, and so far it's been a lot of fun. Be sure to follow us on any Google Podcast, Spotify, all those platforms you can find us on. Be sure to follow us on Twitter @Analyst Podcast and on Instagram Survivor underscore analyst underscore podcast. And yeah, we're just come along for the ride with us. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, this has been so much fun. Thank you, Ian, for the opportunity. Season 1 of Survivor Georgia Tech was filmed last semester. We're filming season 2 right now. Literally had a tribal council today. And the best bet is to follow us on Instagram, Survivor Georgia Tech, and we're hopefully getting that out in the fall.
Amazing. Cannot wait for Survivor Georgia Tech. And the Survivor Analyst podcast is amazing. You should all follow it, listen to it. It is my favorite Survivor podcast. Keep Your Torchlight is not as good. I'm sorry. No offense. Sam, Jack, and Sarah, but Survivor Analyst is better because they're unbiased. Unfortunately, as much as I love Sam, Jack, and Sarah, they do know everybody and also kind of know what happens. So I personally find it more enjoyable to listen to these guys who have no bias and have no issue saying when they like dislike somebody or whatever. So I hope all of you listen to their podcast and follow them along for like, you guys do like the CBS seasons also, right?
Well, listen, Jeff Probst just announced that there's a CBS.
Oh, yeah.
I saw that. Yeah.
So we might be getting moved out of that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you guys are doing Survivor Michigan again. That has made
Yeah.
a lot of us very happy to hear. So, and
yes, if you want to hear the original shit talker, go back and listen to season 4. I'm there. Enjoy it. It's fun. Listen, I've been so happy to see Dale in this season. A hell of a lot more than I thought he would.
That's good. The Dale fans also need to come out of the closet as well. I know they're out there.
Are we hiding? What? This is news to me.
Depending where you go on the internet, you may not find as many as you'd think.
Wow.
Yeah. The swag daddy, yeah. We may even see the swag daddy on a future after show. Who can say? Who can say?
I hope so.
But thank you guys all for coming. And a reminder that the next episode of Survivor Michigan All-Stars will air on Thursday because we don't want to compete with CBS. You know, we don't think we would win that matchup, unfortunately. It was much discussed. We thought maybe we could take them, but it's been decided. We don't think we have that amount of clout yet. Maybe for season 6, we could take them on. But
if y'all got to that level, they'd send y'all a cease and desist.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I've actually had nightmares about that happening. Like, what would we do if that happened? I think they know that it's good for them, right? Like I never watched Survivor before I got into this, so there must be other people like me who are like watching the show because of College Survivor.
That's interesting. So I would have never watched College Survivor if it wasn't for CBS Survivor. I mean, and Josh as well. But like, I've never thought about it being opposite.
Yeah, I mean, I think some college students, like I got involved in the club, and then I started watching.
We got the biggest Survivor. Dale fan here in the comments.
No, Ari.
Yeah.
We've had conversations about this.
Yeah, Dale's hilarious. Love me some Dale. I would have loved Dale on All-Stars. That would have been hilarious.
Oh, I wish
he graduated. I'm sure he would have been autocast if he had been around.
Oh, so here's a question that I asked Josh. I know this we already did the goodbyes or whatever, but if Matthew, Ben, and I can't remember the
Eliza,
yeah, if they would have been around to play or would have been able to play All-Stars, who would they have been cast, and who do you think they would have replaced?
All of them would have been cast 100%. I don't know who they would have replaced necessarily. I will say that my position on this always was that we should cast everybody and just make it a giant season and figure it out. Because I was like, from a club, you have to understand, like from a club standpoint, at the end of the day, Survivor Michigan is a club first and foremost, over it being a TV show or a game or anything else. And when like all the people who were applying for All-Stars, you knew how much they cared about it and they had been involved in the club all these years, that to me, it just felt really cruel to cut them, especially when we were going to ultimately cut only like 3 or 4 or 5 people. I was like, let's just figure it out. Like triple boots, who cares? We'll figure it out. We'll make it work, And I genuinely believe we could have made it work. I don't know who would have been cut for those people. Probably on the guy's side, Tom, unfortunately, is probably Tom. On the girls' side, I don't know. That was very competitive. I really don't know, to be honest. But But there's no doubt in my mind that Eliza would have been cast for sure. Like she would have been an auto lock. Same with Ben and Will and Ben, Jack, and Matthew. All would have been instant locks. So I really don't know because most of the guys cast were like instant locks. I don't really know who we would have cut. So it gets complicated. I would have probably just advocated for casting even more people. That's what I wanted to do. I thought that would have been fine. It would have made the editing even harder and the episodes even longer. And people would be like, oh my God, like 3-hour episodes? What the hell is this?
Hell yeah. More Survivor Michigan content.
But that's what I wanted to do. I thought that it would be fine and we could have made it work. But it is what it is. I was very happy with the cast that we got ultimately. And I think that they played a great season. So, yeah. Anyways, that's been our after show. I hope you guys have enjoyed. I hope you guys have been enjoying the season, and stay tuned on this channel for more content and check out Survivor Analyst and Survivor Georgia Tech when you get a chance.